What was a good memory you had when you were in school? I was a terrible student and a huge baseball fan growing up. In 6th grade, I had an English teacher who knew I wasn't dumb, just hard to motivate. She privately offered me an extra credit assignment. All I had to do was write a 2-page essay on any topic I liked at all, explaining why I liked it so much. I straight up turned down her offer, being content with my C grade. So she flipped it around on me and publicly told another guy in my class that since he was the biggest Red Sox fan in the class, he should write a 2-page essay about the Red Sox and present it to the class. I practically jumped out of my seat and said I was a way bigger Red Sox fan than Mike and I should be the one writing that essay. She let us both write one. She was a really good teacher. In high school we had a group project and this class was 90% girls, so the other 10% guys, including me, were in a group. This teacher used to kinda gang up on us with the girls, and one day she was preoccupied and we were talking about how we didn't want to be there and we should just jump out the window. This one guy scopes out the window, sticks his feet out first, give us a wink and just jumps out. Dropped probably 7 to 10 feet onto the grass and just waltzes back into class like he just came from the bathroom or something. Teacher didn't even notice. My senior year we had a math class that the teacher also happened to be a football and track coach. It was an elective with a whopping 11 kids in class. 6 of us played football and/or ran track. We had a great relationship with the coach. One kid ordered a pizza to the parking lot, climbed out the window, got the pizza, and crawled back in all while coach went to make copies. He comes back and literally says, "Dan, how the f did you get a pizza in? Never mind, don't tell me." We told him at practice and he couldn't help but just laugh. My friend was a super senior, failed a required class, and had to pass government to graduate. He was borderline failing again, and then one day after some intense rain a huge puddle formed outside. He kept loudly declaring it, Lake Picot, the teacher's name, and finally after multiple disruptions the teacher said, "If you swim across Lake Picot, I'll let you pass this class." The dare was accepted, and with the entire school watching he went outside, dove into the puddle and swam, crawled approximately 50 meters to finally get his diploma. One time in Spanish class there was an earthquake drill where we all had to get under the tables. The teacher was in the back of the class, so my friend hid under the teacher's desk, then stayed crouched up like a gargoyle under her desk for the rest of the class. After everyone had gotten up, whole class could see him but the teacher couldn't. He crawled out army style when the bell rang and teacher freaked the f*** out. My sister's husband tells a story about how he and a buddy got in trouble at school and they had to stay after school and wash windows. This was an old building with huge opening windows without screens. They were on the 3rd floor and leaning out the window to clean the outside. The teacher told them to be careful and not fall out. The teacher stepped out and my brother-in-law climbed down the gutter and sprawled out on the grass. His buddy screamed out and the teacher ran to the window and looked out, seeing him laying below. In a panic the teacher ran down the stairs to go to him while my brother-in-law ran up a different flight of steps. The teacher runs out to the front of the school to find no one there. My brother-in-law yells to him from the 3rd floor, waving to him. We had a biology teacher who was a bit weird. He was close to retiring and didn't really give a f*** about what the schoolmaster told him to do. He still was kind of a good teacher though. One day, he suddenly stands up, jumps out of the window, ground level, and runs to some guy walking over a bridge. We had no idea what was going on. Turns out, that guy threw an empty plastic bottle into the stream while walking over the bridge, and our biology teacher saw that. Another time he screamed, "Get off the lawn, blimp," at a friend of mine who was walking on the lawn outside of our classroom. I loved that teacher. I remember one time in boys' choir, our teacher wasn't there. Took a good 15 before someone came up with the bright idea of lining the tables up and see who could jump across all of them. Eventually, the vice president found out we didn't have a teacher and found us some worksheets to do until choir was over. I've climbed out of my fair share of windows during class. Was my signature lol. One of my favorite school memories was in 8th grade. My friends and I would drop our books out the windows so that we would have to go downstairs, outside into the field, and get them. Our teacher knew we were fucking idiots and didn't all just happen to drop our books out the windows. But after they were already outside they had to be retrieved regardless, so she'd begrudgingly have us go get them. Had an emergency exit in my high school math classroom. Small ladder going out the window with probably a 15 to 20 feet drop. Substitute teacher is writing on the board and I watched this kid climb the ladder and jump right out. Nobody said a word about it. Watching my stepdad call the principal of my school in 4th grade out on his butt right in front of me, because it was the first time I had a father figure in my life who cared enough about me to stand up for me. In 3rd grade, it was some reading appreciation week, and we decided as a class to visit a cemetery. Granted, it's a pretty famous cemetery with a couple of really important people buried there, and we had a scavenger hunt to find them. Along with like the oldest grave we could find, the biggest, and we had to make a rubbing of one of our choosing. As a strange child, it was the best field trip I had ever been on. Every morning my teacher will ask us questions about history. If we get it right he would give us a Snicker bar. But this the funny part, he would throw the Snickers bar at us real hard. So if get the question right you would had to dodge the fast-moving Snickers. My history teacher did the same thing, but with Jolly Ranchers. It was so fun. Since I was into history, especially World War II history, I would always snag an extra Jolly Rancher or two because I was the only student he had, up until that point, that got it right. I was always a shy introvert, and when I went off to high school I made it a goal to do one thing during my 4 years there that would force me out of my comfort zone. I ended up trying out for the cheerleading team. I was definitely not the type to get up in front of a crowd and cheer. The tryouts involved performing a personally choreographed dance, which was no issue as I had some dance background. They allowed those who wanted to try out to perform their dances in groups, but since I had no friends I did it alone. I was so damn nervous, but I did it and I made the team. The rest of my high school experience pretty much sucked, but that one thing made me really proud of myself. One of my math teachers in high school was a bit on the crazy side in a very good way. He'd scoot around the room on his desk chair, rolling over backpacks and the like. He'd punctuate talks with weird sayings like, but, he said, which is tub spelled backwards. He generally made the class time entertaining for everyone. One day, he decided to show us the derivation of a mathematical formula. Nowadays, showing this particular formulation to a bunch of high school students would likely get him kicked out. I don't remember the exact derivation, but the end result was, the integral of e to the x power equals some function of u to the nth power. Written out, it looks like this. Yes, he went through a whole mathematical derivation just to tell a group of high school students, x equals fun. Reminds me of my history teacher in my first 2 years at secondary school. He hummed and spoke in rhyme and called the class his little chickadees. He was a fun teacher who I only saw genuinely angry twice. He had Kinder Egg toys on his desk. He grew his beard every 5 years and shaved it off for charity. He had a heart attack and fell down the stairs in our last year at school and supposedly had another not long after we left. No idea if that awesome teacher is still alive. He wasn't that old. If alive, I expect he would be around 60 to 70 now. A math teacher paused a class because he got a message from his brother. His brother met a girl at a party and had a crush on her, but he found a week later that she was lesbian and got a heartbreak. He went outside to call his brother and came back and told us the story. I had a young teacher who was maybe a year or two out of school himself. He asked if he set his own car on fire at a Dave Matthews concert, would it be illegal? I told him that it would be. He thought since it was his property he could destroy it. I had to point out, yes, but it is disorderly conduct. Then I had one teacher who played minor league baseball for years. He was very good looking. It was a private, Catholic school and they paid shit. I know because another math teacher wrote a problem on the board and muttered the people in the problem with a lemonade stand were finally people who made less than him. High school was a strange time. Watching my mother rip the principal a new one because a typing teacher failed me for poor posture despite my having 100% on every assignment plus bonus marks. Mom ranked up that day. My mom did something similar when I accidentally, seriously it was an accident, brought a folding pocket knife to school. My sister was in the Navy at the time and she was visiting us on leave. We were on our way back home after walking to a nearby store when I found a knife on the ground and stuck it in my hoodie pocket. I took my hoodie off when I got home and forgot about it. The next day I woke up late and was scrambling to catch the bus, so I picked up my hoodie and stuffed it in my backpack. Once I was at school I took the hoodie out to put it on and the knife fell out without me noticing it. So I get called to the principal's office. He shows me the knife, I tell him what happened, and he doesn't believe me. So he calls my mom. His mistake was when he said, "I don't even think he has a sister in the Navy." My mom is fiercely proud of my sister for serving, despite how worried it made her. My mom hung up on him and drove across town in what must have been record time to exact her revenge. I've shared this story before, but it's probably one of my favorite memories of high school. Halloween costumes were banned at my high school because of some idiots like 10 years before that dressed up and used it as an excuse to hide their face while they vandalized the school. My senior year, more than half of the class decided that we would still dress up and march into the school together in the morning. We all knew we would be punished right away, but it didn't matter. I stayed up all night making a suit of armor out of metallic duct tape and cardboard, along with a broomstick horse to ride. The next day we all gathered in the parking and waited for everyone to show up. People went all out and there were a lot of amazing costumes, and after about 20 minutes of waiting we started our march in. The deans had learned of our plan and were waiting for us right as we entered. They started pulling people aside in groups and taking student IDs to hand out detentions. In my group there was one guy dressed up as an ATM, and when the dean asked for his ID he started making ATM noises and then slipped the ID out through the slot where you would put your debit card in. It was one of the funniest things, and I was so jealous that my costume was not as clever as his. Even though having so many of us participate was pretty awesome, his costume just made that whole event for me. Oh boy, it was a few months before Corona. Middle of the winter. It was so cold that I guess the morning dew froze and so the floor was kind of frosted over. I'm late to school riding my bike as fast as I could. I arrived but my class was kinds far. So I run for it, determined to make it on time. I go up the stairs of the 800 building which is outside of the building and run to my class. I'm running. Then I notice I'm about to run right past the class who were all outside. I make an abrupt stop, but the frosted floor has other plans. I slide about a good 6 feet while still standing. Everybody's watching me in awe. I didn't fall down. It was epic. My third grade class had a reading loft. It was a pretty good sized fort, probably taking up 1/3 of the classroom, covered in carpet, and had lots of cool places to hang out if you wanted to read. The teacher incentivized us to finish work early so we could grab a book and head to the reading loft, so we didn't have to hang out at our desks being bored. Slowly hiding all of the textbooks in the ceiling in my carpentry class over the course of the semester till they were all gone.